Good morning, folks. That's Annie Lennox singing Thorn in Your Side. You remember the Lennoxes in the Braveheart movie? Chatting in the back room to the other guys like the Bruces. The cabal is hard at work. I've had a wee letter frae Sheriff Drummond. That's Kev Drummond, my mate that calls me Mr. Lees. And what it says on it, that he's not going to give me as much time as they had pre-planned to give me, because they understand entirely the corner that they've backed themselves into. Let me read. It's signed personally, if that's to be believed, although it could be a franked mark. From Jedburgh, 04 November 2014. Sheriff Drummond. Act. Mrs. Tom, this time. Mrs. Tom, personally present. The Sheriff, having heard for the agent for the pursuer and the defender, personally, on pursuer's motion, discharges the options hearing previously assigned for 13th February 2015, which would have given me 3 months to expose the fraud in the law sector in Scotland, but they're only going to give me until the 16th December 2014 as a fresh options hearing. Allows parties to adjust their pleadings up to 2 days before orders. Mr. Lees's letter dated 27th of 2014 accompanies with his notice of intention to defend, to be treated as his statement of defence. Nobody mentioned my refusal to accept the legitimacy of the court in the documents that I returned to them, and the grounds for that we discussed very briefly when I told Sheriff Drummond that the Crown is illegitimate, and that was the reason that I'm taking this to law, also to defend my innocence on my behaviours, which is why the letter was accompanied by the threat that I must not, let's read it, allows parties to adjust their pleadings, that's the 16th of December, brought forward from the 13th of February 2015, without consultation, without asking me whether or not that was okay. I was in the process of trying to understand what I should have brought to the court that day, and Miss Tom has now explained that to me, that the timetable I was given before gave me all that time, right through to the 13th of February, to prepare my defence, to rebut all of the lies in the writ that was issued. They've now agreed to change the writ and they get a week to do that, and I then have to change it according to this new. I have to then produce my rebuttals according to this new hearing. I may just drop the case and focus entirely on the criminality and corruption in the court. You lot are now becoming aware of how it blights Scottish families, how the threshold for divorce is just the writing of a letter with the accusation of bad behaviour, which has never been defined since June the 1st, or since January, when the writ was issued, that I ignored, because there's nothing on it that I have ever done or ever precipitated, but they have at least acknowledged that my letters to the judiciary were received, which is why they will not let me write any more. Without the writing of that letter, my house would be separated in half without consultation, even although they acknowledged that the house, my pension was entirely paid up when I met my wife, and that has been offered to me as a gift to silence me. In other words, they've threatened me that if I do not take the pension I'm entitled to and just shut up and roll over and die, that they will then strip half of my home from me, and the admission of guilt, which I'm unprepared to give, and the acknowledgement that the court that they work in is illegitimate and the monarchy they work for is illegitimate has been completely ignored. All of those letters are mentioned in previous videos I've made. You can see the case numbers for them. You can see that they went into the docket that was delivered to Jedburgh Sheriff Court on the date that Sheriff Drummond refers to that day. Okay. Mr. Lee's letter dated 27th October 2014, accompanied with his notice of intention to defend, to be treated as his statement of defence. That's the letter or the document for the court that had the box ticks that I did not accept the legitimacy of that court. There was no reference to that document in the trial. I will post it on my website, in the pre-hearing rather. Okay? Mr. Lee's letter dated 27th October 2014, accompanied with notice of intention to defend, to be treated as statement of defence, therefore ordains, they're back to the religious text, the defender not to communicate directly with any member of the judiciary involved in the case. They've told me that Sheriff John Halley, the freelancer from Arnot-Manderson that I've made several videos about, is no longer on the case, but they've also declared for me in that hearing on the 28th of October. I spend a lot of my time in court now. They are trying to waste my time. They know, both of the judges, Halley and Drummond, know that I cannot get legal representation anywhere between Newcastle and Perth, and they know the reasons for that, which is why they are hell-bent on bringing the date of the future trials forward, and they are in for a major surprise because they are now complicit in the knowledge of the nuclear weapons scandal, as is my wife's divorce solicitor. The letters to my wife's divorce solicitor were directed primarily not to the judiciary. The man, John Halley, because of the massive cover-up of the killing of Greg Hallett and his lawsuit against the legitimacy of the British monarchy, they are very, very nervous about the disclosures that the Crown Office is also illegitimate, as declared along with the Christian oath on my letter of intention to defend, completely ignored in the pre-hearing. They will not allow me to talk to a man who is now, to communicate with a man who they have declared is no longer on this case, is no longer a sheriff at Jedburgh Sheriff Court, and works as a freelancer for the company called Arnot-Manderson. The joke about Moira Anderson, the child murders, and the running of law enforcement in Scotland by the Speculative Society in Edinburgh behind locked doors. There is no amendment of the timetable. Here's another letter. Dear Sir, case, divorce case, Lee's case. I enclose herewith a copy of the Sheriff's interlocutor in the above case for your information. The new timetables are not even formalised. They're doing their utmost to make me defenceless, not to define how to defend myself and the timetables for it, which was mentioned only verbally in the interview. The only help I got on that issue, and I'm very grateful to her for this, was from Miss Tom, my wife's solicitor, who is also now aware of the Trident 3 and Trident 4 nuclear scams. She has since formally acknowledged that in an email to me after I queried it. That awareness of a criminal plot in British law is complicity in the crime. Miss Tom knows that, which is why she blushed a bit when I declared it in the corridors after the event, and the police were listening intently. Blessedly, they are not armed and they talk with local accents, to my declaration that the truth about Greg Hallett's murder, this is just outside the solicitors and attorneys' coffee room on the first floor of the Jedburgh Sheriff Court. 3 local coppers listening to my statement that the truth about Greg Hallett's killing and the illegitimacy of the Crown Office would come out, even if it was not coming out in my law court proceedings in the marital law sector. Yeah, Sheriff Drummond flits between marital law and criminal law, and I was told by the administrators at the court that that was not the case. That when Halley was appointed as the civil law, marital law appointee to the court, and that when I asked whether Sheriff Drummond had left, they said, no, he does the other sector, as you know, you've been involved in it. It's a pack of lies. They are in panic because of their complicity in the creation of Arnot-Manderson, in the year of the Scottish referendum, and the revelation of facts that could have made Scotland free that year if it were not bound into slavery to the Crown and the constitutional monarchy that is hopelessly corrupted. It's all coming out, Sheriff Halley, Sheriff Drummond. You have a vested interest in listening to my videos and hearing the predicament that you are going to put yourself in the annals of history.